Alright guys, welcome back. So this week we're going to be starting to take a deeper look at drawing text into our games. So this is a subject we've covered a little bit before by using draw_text to draw text into specific parts of the screen. But this week what we're going to look at is how to draw text one letter at a time, like you might see in like a dialog box or a text box like displayed on the screen. We're going to draw it inside of a box as well. Just to sort of show you how you might go about setting up your own system to draw text or dialogue or anything like that, where you might want to draw it one letter at a time for that nice kind of like that feel and aesthetic as if someone is talking, or you're reading the text and so on. Now exactly what we're going to do is we're going to create a script that we can call at any point in the game to draw a text box anywhere on the screen, and we're going to be able to set what text we want to draw and how fast we want to be able to draw it. First of all though, it's a completely blank project. I'm going to do some basic setup here. I'm just going to go create a new room. Doesn't really matter what we call it. I'm just going to set to 60 FPS. And then I'm going to go into fonts and add a font for us to draw for our text. We're not going to have more than one font, so I'm just going to call it FNT. Normally I would do FNT underscore something, but it's the only font we're going to use, so I'm just going to call it FNT. I'm going to untick that, set anti-aliasing to 0, and I'm going to use a font called Coda's Crux, which is a cool little pixel font by a dude named Andrew McCluskey, or nowlgames.com. He's made loads of cool little fonts and makes stuff with GameMaker as well, so you can check him out. I'll put him in the description or whatever. I'm using his cool little font called Coda's Crux just as an example font for this tutorial. So anyway, now we've done that. That's all the basic stuff we need. We just need a room and a font setting up. Then I'm going to go ahead and actually make the script that we're going to use to create our text box. I'm going to call it scr_text, and then as I usually do with scripts, I'm going to put a comment at the top using 2 slashes to show what I want the eventual command to look like. So when we're creating a script, you can almost think of it as creating a command that you can call from within the code in your game. So I'm going to be essentially creating the command or creating the function scr_text, and you'll be calling it by typing scr_text and then putting in the text that you want to call in quotation marks, the speed, how quickly you want it drawing, and the x and y coordinate of where you want it drawing on the screen. So that, obviously without the comment, will be eventually what our script will look like when you call it in code other places in the game. So the thing we're going to do with this is we're going to use this script to create an object, and that object will carry the text that we want to draw and a bunch of variables with it that will allow us to draw the text to the screen where we want it and do everything we want to do with it. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a variable, we're just going to call it txt. I'm going to set it to equal instance create argument 2, remember argument 0 is the first one, argument 1 is the second one, argument 2 is the third one, so that's the x coordinate. So the x coordinate that we send through in the command is argument 2, and then the y coordinate, as you may have guessed, would be argument 3, so that's the x and y coordinate that we pass through to the script. obj_text, which will stay white because we haven't made that object yet, but we will later on. So the next thing I want to say is I'm going to send some variables across to this object. Now we've created the object has run its create event, but now because I did instance create as equal to this blank variable, this variable now takes on the ID of this instance. So now we can do stuff to this instance that we've just created by referring to this variable. So I'm going to say with txt, so with that text object that we've just created. I'm going to change some of the variables based on other stuff in the script. So first of all, I'm going to just set some things that are really not going to change, but I will set them in here so that you could, in theory, add more arguments into this script and then be able to change it later. I'm going to create a padding variable, which is what I'm going to use because we're going to draw a text box, but obviously we don't want the text like right at the edge of the text box. We want to give some space around it, so I'm going to give 16 pixels of kind of breathing room around the outside of the text where the text box will draw. And you can change that to whatever suits you, I guess. Max length, this is the maximum like length the text is allowed to be before it'll start like scrolling or whatever, the max length of the box. So I'm going to just set it to be the width of the room for now. View, W view, right, 0. The text itself, the text that we are actually sending through to our text object, is going to be argument 0. Remember, it's this thing that we've just passed through. SPD for speed will be argument 1. And the font that we're going to use in the object, so the object knows what font to use. Now, in theory, that's another thing you could set as an argument, but like I'm putting it in here just to sort of demonstrate. It's going to be FNT, which is the font that we set up there. You can see it's turned red. And now we're going to use those variables to sort of determine a few other things. So the next thing we need to know is how long the text is that we're going to draw, like in terms of the number of characters, because if we're drawing it a number of letters at a time or one letter at a time, we need to know when we're finished. So the next thing we need is to say text underscore length is going to equal string underscore length text, and that will return a number, just the number of characters inside the string that we sent across. The next thing I want is the size of the font. So font size equal font get size font referring to this variable, which is referring to the font that we sent across. So we need to know how big in terms of like number of pixels the font is for like setting the size of the box. Then what we need to do is work out how wide the text is going to be at its biggest. So I'm going to say text underscore width equals string width ext. So what this is going to do is we're going to draw the text based on like a maximum width, which is the width of our room. We're going to like virtually draw the text and say like if it goes beyond that width, then it will like automatically break a line, and we'll draw like on the next line. So like one line will go all the way to the maximum length of the room, and then like it will start breaking into multiple lines. Text width equals string width ext. First thing it needs is the string itself, so text, the separation between lines, and this is where our font size comes in. We're going to use font underscore size plus like about font size over 2. So the separation is going to be like font size, so like already like the height of the font, but that would put the font like the next line directly below us, like with no gap. When we want a little gap in there, so I'm just going to use whatever half the height of our font currently is. And then the maximum length is max length, so that's that. And then we do the same thing for the height, so we know how tall our box needs to be. String height ext, text font size, and this is going to return the height in pixels of, there we go, and that will return the height in pixels of our text having been drawn into this virtual space. So with this like virtual separation and this virtual max width. So now that we know how wide and how high the text is in pixels, we can work out how big our box actually needs to be to store the text in it. So I'm going to say box width equals text underscore width that we've already worked out, plus our padding value, put it in brackets, padding times 2. So it's going to be however wide our text is plus 16 pixels either side of it. So it's like a little bit bigger than the box in each direction. Now I do the same thing with the height. Box height equals text height plus padding multiplied by 2. Semicolon. And there we have it. We've passed through everything we actually need to know about the box that we're going to draw and the text we're going to draw and its width and its height and everything appropriately. Now we can go ahead and actually make the object that's going to draw our text. So I'm going to go to objects, create object, and create obj underscore text. I'm going to create the create event. Now there's not much I'm going to do in here. The only variables I'm going to establish in here are the ones that that are never really going to change based on like the script or based on like choice or anything like that. They're variables that we use to like tick as a timer or so on and so forth. You'll see what I mean. I'm going to set alpha to equal 0. We're going to start the text box as invisible, and we're going to like fade it onto the screen so that it doesn't just pop on instantly. If you do, you can just either set that to 1 or just ignore it. Print equals 2 quotation marks and then a semicolon. Print is going to be the text that we're going to print to the screen at any point in time. Because we're not drawing the whole string at once, what we're doing is we're going to create a variable that we're going to add the text to piece by piece over time, and that's what print is going to be. So say we were saying hello or something, we would like this would be start off as nothing, just 2 quotation marks, then on the next frame it would become H, then it would become E, then it would become L, H-E-L, then it would become H-E-L-L, and then it would become hello. But it's going to start as nothing, and it will always start as nothing, that's why we're doing it here. And the same goes for time equals 0. That variable is just going to be how many frames have passed, basically, since this object was made, and we're just going to tick that up by... we're just going to tick it up by however quickly we want to draw the text every frame, and then we used that time variable to decide how many characters to draw in this print variable, and you'll see how it works in a second. And then the last thing I'm going to say is a depth equals depth minus instance number obj underscore text. This just ensures that if we draw one text object, then we draw another text object, the new text object will draw on top of the old text object, so that, you know, we don't make new ones and they appear underneath type of thing. Because obviously the lower the depth is, the further forward it's drawn on the screen. So that's all we need in there, and then the only other event in here we need is the draw event. Add that, and now we're going to add 2 things to this. The first thing we're going to add is one execute code action, which I'm going to name at the start by using a / comment, add letters over time. So all we're going to do here is we're going to, as time passes, we're just going to add more and more letters to that print variable from the text string that we've already passed across from the script that made this object in the first place. So if time is less than text length, and you remember text length is the total number of characters in the string that we worked out from the script, time plus equals SPD, which is the speed that we want to draw. So if it was, you can start to see how this might work now, because then what we're going to do is we're going to say print equals string underscore copy text, the string we want to copy from, 0, where we want to actually count from, and time, which is the number of letters we want to copy. So what string copy does is, as I said, it's going to take a string, it's going to count from a particular letter up to a particular letter, and copy that part of the string into this variable. Now obviously at the beginning time equals 0, and with 0 and 0 it's going to copy nothing into print, and it's just going to be what it was to begin with, which is just 2 quotation marks. But then as time keeps getting SPD, the speed, added to it, say it was like 2, or no, say it was 2, yeah, so time plus equal 2, so then time becomes 2 on the next frame. We copy counting from 0 up to the second character of our string. Say it was hello, that would be H and then E, and it would put that into print, and then it keeps adding and adding onto time, and we keep building until we get the entire of the string, and it would draw the entire thing to the screen. And that's it. That's all you need in order to actually build up this variable. So now this object is building this text variable, and then it'll just stop doing this once time is equal to or greater than the text length, because that means we've got it all. We've got the whole string at that point. So that's the first action we're going to have in here, and then we're going to have another one in here, another execute code action, which I'm going to call render text box and text. You don't need to keep these separate, but I just thought it was a nice way to organize it. So in here, now that we actually have all the text that we're going to draw to the screen, now we just need to actually go ahead and draw it. So first of all, I'm going to do draw set alpha equal alpha, which, as you remember, is set to 0 at the moment. And if alpha is less than 1, which it is, alpha plus equals SPD, the speed we wish to draw the text, divided by 10, else alpha equals 1. So if alpha is less than 1, we're going to increase the alpha, so increase the transparency at which we're drawing, by just the speed we want to draw the text divided by 10. The only reason I use that is just so that, like, if we want to draw the text faster, it means the box will fade in faster, and if we draw it slower, it'll fade in slower. Just so that it just kind of matches up with the sort of feel of whether we want to draw text really rapidly because someone's talking really fast, or if we want to draw it slowly because we want it to be a bit more dramatic or whatever. And then the else alpha is 1 on the top, just means that we don't go over 1, we just set it to 1 when it gets there. So that's that. So draw set underscore set font is going to be font, which is the font that we've already passed through. Draw set color. Now what we're going to do is I'm going to set the color to be just C underscore gray for now. We're going to draw like a gray box, and then we're going to draw like a black border on the box, and then we're going to draw the text on top in white. So first of all, we're just going to draw the box. So draw rectangle, x, y, x plus box width, y plus box height. And you remember our current x and y coordinates are whatever's been passed over to us from the script at the beginning, because we made the object and then we set its x coordinate, all on the same frame. So like, we don't even get to this draw event before those variables have been set. And it's not an outline, so it's 0, and that will draw a grey box of the right size. Then what we want to do is say draw set color C underscore black, and I'm going to draw the exact same rectangle again, x, y, x plus box width, y plus box height, but I'm going to put a 1 in here this time to say that it is an outline. So we're going to get a grey box with a black outline. So that's actually drawing the text box. Now we want to draw the actual text. So draw set color C underscore white, draw set H align. So this is like whenever you've used like Word or a word processor or anything before, you can set the alignment of text to draw from the left, or draw from the center, or draw from the right. We're going to draw from the left, so I'm going to say FA underscore left. Draw set, and then the vertical align, I'm going to draw from the top. So we're going to draw from the top left. So we're basically going to pick any coordinate, like on the screen, and then we're going to draw like down and to the right, essentially, from that position. So now that we've set that, we can actually draw the text itself. So draw underscore text underscore ext. The ext stands for extended, because there's a draw text command and there's a draw text extended command, which just gives you a few more things that you can pass along. And now, as opposed to doing a bracket and writing all the stuff like in here as one big function, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open that bracket down here and close it down here. You can do this and it works in exactly the same way, and it just makes it a little bit easier to read these commands sometimes. I'll say x, first of all, the first function we want in here is the x coordinate of where we want to draw the text, which is our x coordinate, plus the padding, the amount of padding because we want to draw inside the box that we've created. So x plus padding, so about 16 pixels into the box, and y plus padding, 16 pixels into the box downwards. The actual text we want to draw is print, the variable. The separation between each line that we want to draw is going to be font underscore size plus font size over 2, which we worked out earlier. Oh, not semicolon, comma. And the maximum length is max length, which is currently just the size of our room, but will be whatever. And that works just the same as if we'd put all of that on one line, just as long as it's comma separated at the end of each one, and then end with just closing the bracket and a semicolon there. So, and then once that's all done, we can say draw set alpha back to 1, so that we don't draw anything else with half transparency. And that's really it. That's all there is to that. So now we have that, we have the create event, we have the script. So we can now try that out. If I go into the room and I just go into the creation code of the room and I type scr_text, and you can see that turns yellow. That's the thing we're going to actually do. This is a test string. We'll draw it at a slow speed so we can see it working like 0.5. So it will draw like one character every 2 frames. And x and y coordinate would be 300 by 300, just to keep it simple. So if we run that now, we can see I've actually made a mistake, and the text is drawing way too long outside of the box. And the reason for that, if I go into scr_text here, is that when we use these this function here to work out how wide the text was going to be, it was doing that based off of the default font. It doesn't know what font we want to use because we hadn't set a font. So what you need to do in here is you need to type in draw set font to equal font, which is the font that we just set. So that font is ready to use ahead of time, so that when we use string width ext and string height ext, it's working it out based on if it were using that font to draw the text. So now if we run the game, you can see it works fine and it draws the text letter by letter into this box. Now to make that a bit more sort of interesting to test out, I'm just going to create a quick object here called obj_spawner, and we're going to create an object so that we can just click all over the screen and spawn lots of different text boxes. How this works isn't really an important part of the tutorial, but I'm going to explain it anyway. I'm going to say if mouse check button underscore released mb_left var str switch irandom 4 oops. There we go. Basically what I'm doing here is I'm just going to create 4 random scenarios and set this string to be something, oops, don't do that, and set the string to be something based on 4, just a random number between 1 and 4. So case 0, so in case our random number between 0 and 4 comes up with 0, str equals 4 lines of text in the object. Hash symbol. If you type a hash symbol into a string, whenever you use draw text or draw text extended as a function in GameMaker, and it comes across a hash symbol, it will interpret that as a line break, and it will do an automatic line break for you, which can be very useful sometimes. So 4 lines of text in the object, 4 lines of text. Take one down. I have prepared these in advance. Pass it around. Still kind of 4 lines of text in the object, so I'll have that as a really big one. Semicolon, break, just to end the case, semicolon. Case 1, str equals, I don't understand, I just want to understand, semicolon, break, semicolon. Case 2, str equals, wow, this is a fairly long line, don't you think, question mark, semicolon, like that's all on one line, no hash symbols, break. Case 3, str equals, haikus have 3 lines, which makes them good for testing. Wouldn't you agree? Question mark, semicolon, break, semicolon. Case 4, str equals, dot dot dot. It's the most boring one, I guess. Break. Default. str equals, something went wrong. Because that shouldn't ever come up. Break. So we're just going to pick one of those strings at random, and we're going to set it to be that variable, and then all I'm going to do is I'm going to say str_text string at speed 1, why not? Mouse X, mouse Y, so wherever we just clicked with the left mouse button. And then end that if statement. Now I'm going to plonk that object in the room. Although it shouldn't be called object 1 now. There we go. Run the game again. It should still draw our test 1 at the beginning. That's a test string, but now if I click around, it'll start drawing those text boxes that we came up with more or less anywhere. So yeah, there you have it. That's the very basics on like drawing text or drawing dialogue in a specific spot, and how that actually works. I can go into here and show you what happens if we want to draw that a bit faster. Say we'll draw like 3, it'll draw like 3 characters at a time and draw everything really fast. You see the first one was quite slow, but now these are all zoom, 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 super fast. And you can do the same thing by making it like 0.2 to draw it like really slow, like 1 every 5 frames. And fade in slower as well. You can see that's a bit more slow and dramatic. And so on and so forth. So it's kind of flexible. There's a lot more I could show you how to do this. I might follow up this tutorial with more stuff on this, because I've kind of been working on a flexible-ish kind of text engine, but we'll see whether or not I get to doing that. Either way, I hope this was useful to you guys, and I will catch you guys next week. Thanks for watching, guys.